Thank you so much. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of y'all. Thank you so much for running this event. It's been super fun to participate. Really, really thrilled to be here. And thank you to the judges who gave up their time this morning, or depending on where they are. I'm really thrilled to be going first. My speech is called Dance in the Darkness. And this goes out to trans kids all over the world. You are loved and you are enough. It's 2 a.m., slamming gin, out on the scene, and I'm drunk again. But I look down at my phone, and it's a call from my mom. She'd never called this late unless something was wrong. So I step outside, quiver in my chest, raise the phone to my ear, and she tells me the rest. Tomorrow, the world is ending. I'm so sorry, sweetie, she says. My heart rends. She wants to know if I'll come home or stay out with my friends. I start to panic. I can't breathe. I can't think. Everything I've ever worked for straight down the sink, and it's not fucking fair because God knows the queers aren't the reason Earth's death is near. There was so much more that I had planned, and I've worked so damn hard to get where I am. When you are trans, gay, femme, fat, the world doesn't make it easy to get where you're at, or for you to even love yourself. That alone has been insurmountable. A personal hell, more like falling down a mountain, and as the vortex thrums in my head, outside my head, everywhere, everything, all at once, it's at this moment, I find some calm in the storm, epiphany, and some different considerations start to take form. How much of this fight has been for me, and how much of it has been fighting who everything thinks I'm supposed to be. And that's when it hits me. The shackles fall off. Everything the world's ever taught me just fades away. I breathe again. And I start to realize that right now, I've actually never felt this way. In some dark type of irony, it's, I don't know, maybe a sense of relief. I don't have to spend the rest of my life struggling to stay on my feet because there are no fucking rules at the end of the world. And it's not just me. We all get a chance to have some reprieve because for the first time ever, we don't have to be anything. Hot enough, thin enough, tall enough, chic enough, straight enough, gay enough, out of the way enough, cool enough, smart enough, man up enough, attractive enough, driven enough, prim enough, proper enough, harder enough, better enough, faster enough, strong enough, literally everything all at once enough except yourself. And as I have this existential crisis outside some gay club in London whose name I can never remember, with my mom still weeping on the phone, I realize annihilation never felt so good. There's nothing more queer than the end of the world. Because for the next 24 hours, nothing really matters. And I don't mean that in some bullshit, predatory, purge fetishizing kind of way, but rather in recognizing that there is beauty to dancing in the darkness and not having to worry what anyone else thinks anymore. The world is ending tomorrow, so be whatever gender you like. That makes you feel good. Love who you want. Spend time with the people you realize now really matter. Tell your partner that secret that's been eating away at you. Go perform at your local pub just like you've always wanted to. If the world is ending tomorrow, you can be your best, most beautiful self. Strip away the layers. Cut off the chains. Spread your wings and soar, without the weight of the world wearing you down for the first and last time ever. So I raise my phone back to my ear and I tell my mom I'm coming home because, at least for me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. But what if I told you this wasn't just a story, that it's the world we live in right now, that's going down in a blaze of glory. Europe is melting, continents are on fire, and plagues and disasters ravage the world at once as Mother Nature screams out in self-defense and countries strip away the right to be that which makes us whole. So I'm telling you, the world is an expectation. Off. Just be you. Dance in the darkness, my loves. Take care of each other. Be your queer, perfect self. You know what to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh, for those wonderful words. We'll just be another minute and I'll call in the next speaker.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
You are audible, yes.
Just confirming, I guess, live stream has to be started or not, something, I think.
Mila, are we doing the live stream? All right, great. Okay, Joel, we're ready for you.
Am I visible? Am I visible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are
both.
both audible and visible.
I'll be starting soon. 3, 2, 1. Boom! No, hold on. It's not the end of the world. It's not a gunshot. It's not an explosion. It's not a meteorite. It's just me. So yes, that means you keep on getting to live and enjoying all your privileges, your cars, your money. But if I'm not the killing glue, then it means there's one privilege you still don't get to enjoy. The privilege of knowing when and how you'll die. So this is my question to you. If you knew when you were going to die, what would you do? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't like thinking about that reality, the end of the world. No, because the movies tell us that superheroes, the Avengers, the Justice League, they'd swoop in and they'd save us and everything would be fine. But in 2020, when COVID came as the end of the world, there was no superhero to save us. We stood and we prayed and we hoped for some miracle, but no one came to our aid. The closest thing to superheroes were the doctors and the nurses at the front lines of medicine who came to help to try and save people. And then we saw the difference between movies and reality. In reality, superheroes die. I had the misfortune of having my father be one of those superheroes who had to go to work every day and come back dealing with the people who were threats to his life. And I was scared, I was horrified, and my little brother was too. But my father, he was concerned, but he didn't panic. Amidst the hysteria of people dying, doctors who we thought would save us dying, people being separated from their families and crying and being so sad, he was cool and he was calm. And he'd always tell us, be level-headed, be cool, it will all be okay. So one day, infuriated and frustrated after seeing the death rate just rise up, I turned to him and I was like, how can you be so calm? How can you be so cool about this? When people are dying, when your own people pose a threat to you. And he laughed, he giggled, and he called me down. He had me take a seat. And this was what he told me. He told me that he had been a doctor for 20 years. And he had been with people at their deathbeds when they were about to pass away. And all of them had regrets because of one thing. They waited. They waited for too long and until it was too late to wish they could tell their moms they love them, to forgive their parents for doing them wrong. They harbored so much inside, and always at those points, they just wanted to let it go, but it was too late. And so every day when he woke up, he made the decision to not wait. And he orchestrated his life, his everyday routine, as if every day was the last. So he told us he loved us before he went to work, because it would be his biggest regret if we didn't know that before he passed away. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of us are waiting till we are 40 or till we are 50 before we think of the end of the world. Because I think we believe that somehow it will work out. But who promised you that when you're 40, you'll be alive? Who promised you the next hour? Who promised you the next 10 minutes? Nobody did. But worse off, who promised you that at that time you could accomplish what you want? That somebody would be waiting for you to come to them and forgive them or talk to them? Nobody did. I say we should live every day as if it were last, as if the world was ending. When you wake up, call your mom, tell her you love her, tell her that you want to come home and you want to be with her. You want to travel and it's your passion. Why aren't you doing it? Travel to Greece, to Italy, explore. I have orchestrated my life like that since COVID, since 2020. I wake up in the morning and then I wonder, if today was my last day, what would I do? And I do the things that matter to me a lot. One of them, in fact, is eating my favorite toffee. It's called Dr. Milk. And I'm not sure that the next minute after this speech, I'll be alive to eat it. So even here on the world stage, I'm going to eat my favorite toffee while you all watch. Because hey, the next minute isn't assured, and I'm living life every day as if it were my last. So my question to you is, what is it that you would do if today was your last day? And more importantly, why aren't you doing it? If you cannot answer that last part, you need to get up right now. You need to call your mom. You need to take your diary, check what you wanted to do most, and get right into it. The world is not waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Joel. Next up, we have Jefferson. We'll just call them. Hi, Jefferson. Can you hear us?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you. Can I also have a confirmation if I am heard and clear on your side as well?
Yes, you are clear and visible.
Okay, before I would start with my speech, can I have like a very quick shout out if it's okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, shout out to all MGDS family from MSU Jensen, especially to Kuya Ben and James who pushed me to join the public speaking competition. Shout out to my friends and my classmates, whole MSU CE people and my closest friends. Shout out to my mom and dad who I think is more prouder to what I have stood upon than myself. Like, thank you very much. And to the whole Belgrade team, thank you for giving us a scholarship. Like, should we never had a scholarship, we might not have never joined in the first place. So thank you very much. And lastly, allow me to speak in my local tongue. Shout out, nakasulod ang taga Mindanao, kinsa nagdahom giatay, panabangi mga langit, pag binisaya ko dere wakoy labot, daog man no pildi dako na kaayo ni, balay sa mga kampiyon, Jensen represent, muhila ko pagkaman ani di Peter. Yeah, that's all. Thank you. Yeah. Let me just first set up my timer real quick. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Wait. Okay. Before I will start, the title of my speech is Que Sera Sera. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, and 1. If the whole world was ending, then let it end. Let it fucking end. Our current woke society places a very grand premium on toxic optimism and superhero narratives that everything will be okay and everything will get better than ever. But it won't. I had a class in chemistry about the second law of thermodynamics or law of entropy. It states that as one goes forward in time, the net entropy of any isolated or closed system will always increase or at least stay the same. In straight English or dumbed down sense, because you don't speak rocket science, we're all debate geeks and nerds here, anything that is in order will always come to disorder. I say that the doomsday narrative is true and inevitable. The world is ending and living is literally dying because every day that you wake up, you literally just get closer to death. So isn't like living a euphemism to dying? I mean, like, whoa, Jeff, why is your speech like this? Like you're literally advocating as if you're a villain in the movies. But it is true. I cannot sugarcoat the possibility that just one red button can start a nuclear catastrophe or 1 more degree Celsius of overheat from climate change can sink an entire country, or one pandemic monkeypox can potentially be the next Spanish flu, or if it's true, one Abrahamic biblical rapture can fucking end the entire world. Perhaps Arthur Schopenhauer is right. The human existence is a constant swing of boredom and pain. Happiness and vitality is just a red herring to humanity's ultimatum, which is disorder and chaos. Around stoicism and absurdism. In a nutshell, and to all people who hate philosophy, stoicism and absurdism is literally que sera sera. Yes, que sera sera. The song sung by Doris Day and Frank DeVol that goes like this, like que sera sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera sera. Yeah, that song. Because if we string it back to the whole premise of my speech, if the world is ending, then 2 things. First, then let it end, but still do something about it at very least. Or 2, if you can no longer do something about it, then kiss your mother goodbye. Because 1, we have little to no control over the world's doomsday, or even if we have the control, national peace and climate change and such, even if we move mountains or if people believe us or not. Because as debaters, it's kind of ironic how we debate and talk about international relations like we literally have 2 IR motions during the preliminary rounds, but we don't actually reach the average people or cocky politicians and advocate and preempt the world about nuclear possibilities or anything like that. We don't proliferate the ground that much, or how our first preliminary motion was about environment and hurricanes. Shit, but our voices reach little to no people in terms of pragmatics, because for all like capitalists don't believe in fucking climate change in the first place. So yeah, no BS. The world is ending and it's no longer an if scenario. But at least as someone who calls on activism, you die advocating for something we will at least die advocating for something, which is kind of cool and a flex in of itself. We will have no grudges or guilt when we die, which is something at the very least. If the world is ending, we will die with honor, fighting for what second. If the world is ending and your little intervention of no effects on stopping the doomsday, then kiss your mother goodbye. Like literally kiss them goodbye. Because as humans, even if the world is ending or not, we give little to no emphasis and affection towards our loved ones or to the people that matter in our lives. If the world is fucking ending, like a kilometer-wide comet is approaching our atmosphere and we're the next dinosaur extinction, I want people to tell their mothers how much you love them. Embrace your fathers one last time and make sure it's tight. Play Mario Kart with your brother and sister. Have fun while it lasts. Play fetch with your dog. Play feathers with your cat one last time and feed them all of the treats in your pantry. Call your friends and play the largest game night you ever had. Or fuck, call your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, and wife and have sex while a mushroom cloud explodes or something like that. But this is the bare minimum on display on human affection. I say, even if the world is ending or not, do these things, do these affections, just because now that we are after the finals, we don't need an if the world is ending scenario to show your love towards the people that matter. So yeah, if the world is ending, then let it fucking end. But place in mind, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future is not ours to see, but at the very least, it's something we still have power at the end. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that, Jefferson. Thank you for that wonderful and enjoyable speech. We have Scott up next, and we'll just call them in a moment. Hi, Scott. Can you hear us?
Hello? Hi. Just want to confirm, am I audible and visible?
You are audible and visible, yes.
Okie dokes. Wait, give me a second. I will just adjust this lighting. Okay, there we go. Before I begin, just a couple of things. First, a few trigger warnings. There will be mentions of bullying, discrimination, and violence in this speech. So if any of those topics trigger you or make you uncomfortable, just a heads up in advance if you do not want to listen. Secondly, big shout out to several people, to Joseph, Keith, PJ, Denise, Billy, Josh, Kath, Ethan, Anna, Reg, 30, Kyla, Miggy, Vier, Jamie, Marco, other Marco, Jill, Annika, Yai, and many other people. Thank you all for always making me believe that I can do the impossible. With that said, I'll just get my timer and then I will be starting my speech. Yeah, very briefly. All right. Whew. With that said, I think is my very last speech for my beloved university in 3, 2, 1. I come from the Philippines, a country that is notorious for several things. One, being Jollibee. Everyone knows that. Secondly, being our performance in Miss Universe. And lastly, to a certain extent, of course, having reached the WUDC finals 2 years in a row. One thing that my country is not very notorious for, though, is its height. So I spent most of my childhood, in fact, 17 years of it, standing below 5 feet, which essentially made me a dwarf in a country of already very small people. And what that often meant is that a lot of times I would be bullied. Sometimes because I was small, meaning I was easy to pick up and throw on the ground. Real story, by the way. Sometimes because other people were bigger and more athletic, meaning they could just stick out their arms and stop me in basketball. And other times because other people's voices would mature faster while I still always talk like I was in falsetto and I would be mocked for sounding like a kid. So across the duration of that very chaotic childhood, I would often find myself wanting to leave this world for other ones, most especially the world of comic books and superheroes, things that I absolutely loved, mostly because of 3 things. First was because of the hero, oftentimes someone strong, handsome, tall, and confident. Not someone that I ever felt that I could relate to, but someone that was super cool and someone who I aspired to be. Second was the world-ending threat, sometimes a dangerous person like Lex Luthor or Doctor Doom, other times a dangerous situation like an impending meteor, just things I found incredibly fascinating as a kid. But lastly, the normal person, that character that we get to know very deeply, the person that the hero cares about but doesn't necessarily have any superpowers. You know, the funny friend who makes great jokes, the family living back at the barn, or the sweet kid or love interest that they introduce at the start of the story. Those people were always my favorite, and there were two reasons for that. The first was because they often needed to be saved. They were powerless people living in a very powerful world, and I just related to that, often feeling powerless and in need of saving. But the second was because, in my mind, they were often what made the hero and the world-ending threat matter. Because the world never really felt like it was ending when I saw buildings collapse or cars explode in Transformers. It felt like it was ending when I watched the love interest falling off the tower, the family starting to drown, or the hero's daughter turning into dust. Because we feel the world ending not through the lens of like the planet exploding and cities collapsing, but through the eyes of the people that live in it. That is why a character must always exist to remind the audience why we should care if the world is ending, or why that world is even worth fighting for. Because the world ends when their future is taken away. And I understood that very well. Because when I was younger, I honestly thought I would never have much of a future. Because the fear instilled inside of me was often very paralyzing. I remember crying during my first debate after a 1-minute speech, crying when my teacher asked me to go to another classroom to get chalk, crying when I had to play sports because I knew I would suck. And every time, I felt that I would never be able to amount to anything because people would always judge me and I would never be good enough to accomplish anything. That was the world ending through my eyes. And that's the hard part about real life. Because unlike superheroes, we don't get to see a giant spaceship in the sky or an army of robots attacking everyone all at once. No. In real life, the world ending is much more invisible because it ends for different people at different times. And it doesn't end out there. It ends in here. When the young artist is told that their work is never going to matter, when the female scientist is told that inventing isn't for women, when the underprivileged student cannot find a scholarship, or when the excited kid is told that their dreams are never going to amount to anything. The world ends one person, one day, one dream at a time, through the eyes of the people that live in it. And that's why I'm thankful for my heroes, to the friends who saved me, to the people who supported me. But there are many people who will never be able to get that privilege. Which is why, if the world really was ending and the aliens came crashing down today, how would we feel about the world we made? One where you can fail because of how you look, or where you were born, or the gender you have, or the religion that you practice. I'm sure we've all had dreams that were taken away, battles we could never win, struggles that we could never face alone. And understanding that is exactly why we always have to be the heroes that we always needed. To be kind, to be empathetic, to be human. Because skyscrapers don't have to fall for the world to end. It ends every day that we fail to make this world a good place for the people around us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott, for those fine words. We're really grateful to have heard that speech. We'll now call in Anna.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you see me?
You're visible and audible, yes.
Wait, 1 second, let me adjust the angle. Hi, I'm Anna, and this is Was There Silence When the World Ended? After the bombing of Yugoslavia, the first people that came back didn't start by rebuilding their houses or paving the road. After the world ended, wiped off the planet Earth, the first thing that some communities did was plant trees for the birds to come back. Because in the absence of their chirping, there was a deadly silence that they couldn't get rid of. I don't think there's such a thing as one end of the world. I think thousands of worlds end daily, not with a bang, not with a loud crash, but with silence. Whether it's death, war, a project falling through, or love going away, it's a small cataclysmic disaster of significant personal dimensions. They all come with the howling of far too late alarms and sadness. It's not glorious. It's not something that you get closure from, if ever. It's not something that you romanticize because it builds you up. It's something rather we survive despite of. I think pain is not and has never been a victory march. Over 70% of communication is nonverbal. So, I think with pain, it's a little different. With pain, silence means people have gone home. Phones stopped ringing, newspapers stopped broadcasting, the background music of the tragedy stopped. The attempt to make things better was called off. Silence is the sound after the plane crashes. When a plane crashes, there's a black box, a device inside the plane made to account for what went wrong, so that people can find it afterwards, see what malfunctioned, and then make sure it doesn't happen again. It's ironically bright orange, so you can identify it among the debris. So hopefully, when you do find your orange black box, what do you do with it? What do you do with the diagnostic of the cosmic disaster of personal proportions? What do you do when you know what went wrong, but there's nothing else to do? You open it, and you count your almosts. Almost made it, almost was enough, almost told them. And you acknowledge they weigh heaviest, but they're also unnecessary because there's little to be done. You acknowledge the privilege of a broken heart after failing something that you tried. You fight with whatever you believe in. Why was it me? And then you wallow in sadness for as long as needed. And then hopefully at some point, pick up the broken pieces and see what's left to be done. If you can't, what do you do with somebody else's black box? You help out. You follow through with their project if they can't after the plane has crashed. You sign a peace resolution. You prosecute for crimes against humanity in hope that this time works. You acknowledge the story of pain. You don't force them to see the bright side. But usually you bring cookies and you take them out for ice cream and you show them memes and you show them that there's other fish in the sea, and then feel bad about it when the fish start being shitty. They usually do. You make sure the friends, the community, the state do not remain silent. So when the world doesn't, when the movement is suffocated by the government, when the birds fail to arrive, although you planted trees, or with smaller things, when worlds end and you need to console the broken heart of somebody that aimed high and fell short, asking someone to be hopeful is unreasonable. It takes an unnatural amount of strength to say, I know next time will be better. Because sometimes there is no next time. Sometimes it's just untrue. So what you do is you bet, or you try to make tomorrow be one bit better than today. And if not tomorrow, the day after that. And if not the day after tomorrow, the day after that. It's true, a very little life. But there's a lot of tomorrows between now and the actual end of the world. Enough to find all of the black boxes before the plane crashes and see what's going wrong. When the world does eventually end, the ecosystems will throw a party in the last split second before disaster because nature finally revenged them against us, and the iodine pills will sell out and the gods will cry in despair. But the last thing you see is an old grandma sitting on her newly renovated balcony porch, listening to the birds chirp. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna, for that very fine speech. We will now have Yolanda. Hi there, Yolanda. Can you hear us?
Hi, yes, I can. Am I audible also?
You are audible, yes.
Okay, awesome. So I have the camera so that I start. Am I visible? Am I visible?
You are, yes. You may need to rotate your video like 90 degrees anti-clockwise, but you are visible.
Okay. 90 degrees. Is it okay now?
It's okay. Yes, we can see you.
All right, awesome. So do I need to give you the title of my speech before I start, or do we just use the topic?
It's up to you, however you want to start.
Okay, well, I'll just start there. Okay, so I'm starting in 3, 2, 1. Everyone seems to have cute little things to say whenever there are discussions of an imminent apocalypse, like eating all their favorite foods one last time, or watching their favorite person fall asleep again. Or I know, or perhaps even binging Game of Thrones one last time, perhaps to serve as a reminder that even the greatest of shows can also have really crappy endings. But me, if the world was ending, it would probably be my fault. And you may be wondering why. Well, 3 words: love, money, fame. Right from kindergarten, Disney had promised me that love was an amazing thing, that, perfect prince with sparkling white teeth and flying carpets was something I just had to have. And when Rihanna and Beyonce had endorsed it with their music, well, as a faithful stan, I just had to give love a chance. So I did. I still remember him: dark, glistening skin, swoon-worthy pecs, and the height of a god, really. He took my heart and played me like a drum. He broke parts of me and destroyed a part of my world. So society came to me in the form of my mother, and it said to me, hustle hard, my dear, and all other things shall follow. Put your career first, bless your heart. I did everything from part-time gigs to unpaid internships to 9 to 5s, minimum wage gigs, convinced that if I worked hard and long enough, that maybe I would become Elon Musk. Till one day I looked inside the mirror, my weary face, after a very horrible day at work, and decided it was time to accept defeat. Another dream shattered. So, well, I turned on my TV. I just had to turn on that stupid TV, that same TV that convinced me that I had to join social media. It said to me, well, there are other people just like you. You are not alone, Yolanda. And they quit their jobs and they're now on social media making thousands of dollars a month. So guess who went crawling to TikTok start doing funny dances while wearing 100 pounds of makeup. I did everything the so-called experts asked me to do. And yet, over and over again, I would get the same 2 likes on every video. Another part of me shuttered. Over and over again, in more ways than one, the world has promised me validation, and it has lied all those times. And the only people that ever understood me seemed to be those that the world tagged as villains, like Thanos and Wanda. And when Thanos have said that reality can be disappointing, I felt that. So it hit me that villains are just good people that the world has also lied to. Therefore, I decided that if I can't have the Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds type of love, or become Elon Musk and Bill Gates, or become an influencer like the Kardashians, then nobody else should. Nobody else deserves all of that more than I do. And so I guess I prayed and cursed and wished upon shooting stars that the world would come to an end. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if ever a red button appeared in my room that read, push gently for the world to end, I would roll up my sleeves and punch it with all my strength. And then I would wear my favorite red dress, put on my favorite heels, and stand behind a camera to give a confession disguised as a speech that said, if the world was ending, it would probably be my fault. Well, since we do know that the world is about to end, and it is my fault, I will now have my favorite cup of coffee and watch the world burn. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yolanda, for that speech. We're on to our second last finalist for public speaking, Menachem Weber. Hello, Menachem, can you hear us?
Yeah, hey. All right, are we ready?
We are ready, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, shoot, wait, can I start? You know what? Forget it. We're being live streamed, right? So like at this point, it's over. I can't win if I literally messed up in the first 5 seconds. Like, I didn't just lose. I'm going to be remembered as the guy who made it all the way to the finals of the World Public Speaking Championship and then stumbled over his first words like a moron. Like, this isn't just the end of the competition for me. It's the end of the world. Yes, the end of the world. See, some of you might have looked at the prompt for this round and thought, sci-fi, apocalypse. But for some of us, the world ends at least twice a week. When we get a question wrong on a test and ruin that perfect average, it's the end of the world. When we tell a joke and no one laughs, it's the end of the world. I mean, not like personally, I've never experienced that, but I know a guy who said he once told a joke that wasn't funny, and he said it was the end of the world, so I'm going to trust him. And when that judge in round 4 robbed us and we deserved the first, that was the end of the world. So now that you know what I mean by the end of the world, and now that hopefully you realize that it never really is the end of the world, and that we have a chance to restart and make it better, let me restart this speech the only way a debater knows how to start a speech. Madam Chair, the global poor all around the world, and no matter what country in which they live, currently live in a state of dictatorship. They live under a dictatorship known as copycat syndrome, shackled by self-doubt, chained to the fear that if they express who they are, it might be bad, that maybe if we just copy other debaters, it won't be so bad. Because if I lose, but all I did was quote Bo So, fine, Bo wasn't good enough, and I can live with that. But if I'm me, if I open up on this virtual stage and I am who I really am, and then the judges tell me I'm not good enough, I don't deserve to win, then tomorrow and in a year from now, I'll regret being vulnerable. I'll regret opening up, and it'll be the end of the world. And that's why we're so scared of lives of this house regrets that we just give up on living this house believes. We're so terrified that one day we may come to regret what we did, that we live our lives not out of belief, but out of fear. And the only way I can think of to overcome this, the only way that I wouldn't have to deal with, how am I going to feel tomorrow about what happened? How am I going to feel a year from now, looking back at this, would be if there were no tomorrow, because the world really is going to end. And if I could speak just now for these last 2 minutes I have, like the world is ending, like there is no tomorrow, and like I can say what I really want to say, maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to say something worth it for everyone. Because let's be real, as much as I've been speaking about myself, I think we all experience this. How many of us right now are in university studying a subject we don't like, to get a degree we don't need, for a job we won't enjoy, to buy things we won't use to impress people we don't even care about? And why do we do it? Because we're so scared of the regret. We're so scared to be vulnerable, to be ourselves, to admit that we do what we want to do, and then to find out that the world wasn't okay with it, that we didn't make it to where we wanted to make it. And I know some of you are thinking, cute interpretation, but the world really is ending. There are more serious things happening. And whether it's a global pandemic, rising sea levels, people shooting each other in the streets, concentration camps, child slavery, all sorts of things that really are happening and that really might be the end of the world, we miss them because we're too focused on our own individual ends of the world every Monday and Thursday. But if just once, for one day, we could live like there's no tomorrow, like the world really is ending and we won't have to deal with any regrets, then maybe, just maybe, all of those little ends of the world wouldn't be happening. We wouldn't be terrified that the world will end. And I could speak how I want to speak, and we could learn what we wanted to learn and become who we want to become. But it's more than that. Because even those huge issues, if we could just look at the world without following what people want us to do, without fear of regret, and just live the way we wanted to do, I don't believe in the claim that there would be chaos and anarchy. I believe in human beings. I think if we could live how we wanted to live, we would do what's important. We would focus on what's right. And maybe, just maybe, if we lived one day like the world were ending, the world wouldn't be ending. Ladies and gentlemen, this house believes. Thank you.
I'd like to thank that speaker for that very fine speech. And now, Mila, I request you to end the live stream for now before we have our last speaker.